Princess Alice, Duchess of Gloucester, was one of the longest-serving women in British royal history, quiet, disciplined, and almost never controversial. She lived through the reigns of 6 monarchs, survived 2 world wars, and outlived nearly everyone she grew up with. Yet despite her extraordinary longevity and service, her family story is surprisingly small and unusually shaped by loss. She had no daughters. She lost pregnancies before her first child was born. And of the 2 sons she raised, one died suddenly in his early 30s, while the other was forced to abandon a private profession to inherit a dukedom he was never expected to hold. This examination follows, in strict chronological order, what happened to Princess Alice's children, from birth and upbringing to careers, marriages, descendants, and lasting legacy. Each life is completed in full before moving on, offering a clear, factual account of how one of the crown's most loyal figures saw her family line shaped by circumstance rather than ambition. Princess Alice, born Lady Alice Montagu. Douglas Scott in 1901 entered the royal family through marriage to Prince Henry, Duke of Gloucester, in 1935. As the 3rd son of King George V, Prince Henry occupied a position of service rather than succession. The Gloucester household represented the working branch of the royal family, visible enough to fulfill ceremonial duties, distant enough from the throne to maintain relative privacy. Princess Alice brought Scottish aristocratic discipline to her role as Duchess. She understood that her children would grow up as minor royals, expected to serve the crown while maintaining personal restraint. Unlike the heir's children, who lived under constant scrutiny, the Gloucester offspring would be raised with duty as their primary inheritance. The Duke and Duchess established their household at Barnwell Manor in Northamptonshire, supplemented by apartments at Kensington Palace. This arrangement provided both country privacy and London accessibility, typical of non-heir royal families who needed to balance public obligations with family life. Children born into minor royal households faced specific expectations that differed markedly from those placed on direct heirs. They were required to understand their position. Privileged but not central, public but not primary. Education emphasized service, discretion, and professional competence rather than constitutional preparation. Princess Alice's approach reflected her Scottish upbringing and her husband's military background. Children were expected to work, whether in traditional royal duties or in private professions. Public behavior required restraint. Personal choices needed to align with royal standards while allowing for individual development. The Gloucester children would be raised knowing that their public titles came with private responsibilities. They were not expected to live entirely for the crown, as direct heirs were, but they could never live entirely apart from it either. This balance would shape both their opportunities and their limitations throughout their lives. Before the birth of her first surviving child, Princess Alice experienced pregnancy losses that reduced the ultimate size of her family. These miscarriages, acknowledged but not detailed in royal records, meant that the Gloucester line would be smaller than originally anticipated. The impact was practical rather than merely personal. Fewer children meant fewer individuals to share royal duties within the Gloucester household. It also meant that the succession line remained narrow, with less redundancy should anything happen to the eldest son. By the time Princess Alice's childbearing years concluded, the Gloucester family consisted of 2 sons and no daughters. This structure would prove significant when unexpected death later altered the family's trajectory, leaving no alternative lines of descent within the immediate household. Prince William, born in 1941, and Prince Richard, born in 1944, represented the complete next generation of the Gloucester line. As the eldest, William was heir apparent to his father's dukedom and the primary representative of his generation. Richard, as the younger son, was expected to pursue a largely private career while maintaining royal connections. This division of roles followed established patterns in royal households. The elder son prepared for inherited responsibilities, while the younger son developed independent professional capacity. Both would serve the crown, but in different ways and to different degrees. The assumption underlying their upbringing was that William would inherit the dukedom and continue the primary Gloucester line, while Richard would establish a supporting branch focused on private achievement. This expectation would guide their education, career choices, and early adult lives until circumstances dramatically altered their paths. Prince William Henry Andrew Frederick was born on 18 December 1941 during the height of World War II. Britain was under regular bombing attacks, royal residences had been targeted, and the royal family had demonstrated their commitment to remaining in London throughout the conflict. His birth occurred at a time when the monarchy's future was being tested by unprecedented circumstances. The timing of his arrival meant that his early years were shaped by wartime constraints and national emergency. Royal households adapted to rationing, security restrictions, and the constant presence of military personnel. These conditions created an atmosphere of duty and sacrifice that would influence his later understanding of royal service. As a wartime baby born into a military family, his father had served as a professional soldier. Prince William entered a world where service to country was not theoretical, but immediate and visible. This context would remain part of his identity throughout his life. As heir apparent to the Gloucester dukedom, Prince William carried specific expectations from birth. He would inherit not only the title but also the primary responsibility for maintaining the family's public role within the broader royal structure. This position required preparation for a lifetime of constitutional service. His status meant greater public visibility than his younger brother would experience. Official photographs, ceremonial appearances, and media attention focused more heavily on him as the future Duke of Gloucester. This exposure was managed carefully by Princess Alice, who maintained strict control over her son's public appearances. The role of eldest son also meant education and social preparation designed to enable him to represent the crown effectively. His path through childhood and adolescence was planned with these future responsibilities in mind, even as the exact nature of those responsibilities remained undefined by his parents' longevity. Prince William's childhood was divided between Barnwell Manor and Kensington Palace, providing both country space and royal proximity. Princess Alice maintained a disciplined household that emphasized routine, responsibility, and restraint. Children were expected to follow schedules, respect authority, and understand their position within both family and national hierarchies. The influence of Princess Alice's discipline was evident in the structured nature of daily life. Meals occurred at fixed times, recreational activities were organized rather than spontaneous, and education took priority over entertainment. This approach reflected both her Scottish background and the practical requirements of raising children who would need to function effectively in public roles. Royal protection was present but unobtrusive during his childhood years. The family's relative distance from direct succession meant that security concerns were less intensive than those surrounding the heir's children, allowing for a more normal childhood experience within the constraints of royal status. Prince William's early education followed patterns established for royal children of his generation. Initial instruction occurred at home under governess supervision, focusing on basic academic subjects, languages, and social skills appropriate to his station. This private education was later supplemented by formal schooling designed to broaden his experience beyond royal circles. He attended Wellesley House School in Kent, a preparatory institution favored by aristocratic families. The choice reflected Princess Alice's belief that her sons needed exposure to non-royal peers while maintaining appropriate academic standards. The school environment provided structure similar to that of his home while introducing competition and independence. His academic performance was competent rather than exceptional. Teachers noted his reliability and courtesy rather than particular intellectual gifts. This assessment aligned with expectations for royal children who were expected to achieve adequate academic credentials while developing social skills and personal character. Prince William proceeded to Cambridge University, where he read natural sciences at Magdalen College. His university choice reflected family tradition. Several previous royals had attended Cambridge, while his subject selection indicated personal interest in practical rather than purely academic disciplines. University life provided his first significant experience of independence from direct family supervision. While royal protection remained present, he was able to develop friendships and interests outside immediate royal circles. This exposure was considered essential preparation for his future role as a working royal. During his Cambridge years, he began to consider possibilities beyond traditional royal duties. The prospect of international experience appealed to him, leading to discussions about postgraduate education abroad. This interest would later influence his career trajectory and his approach to royal service. After completing his Cambridge degree, Prince William pursued graduate study at Stanford University in California. This decision represented an unusual choice for a British royal of his generation, reflecting both personal interest and strategic thinking about his future role. Stanford provided exposure to American academic culture, international perspectives, and professional networks that would prove valuable in his later diplomatic career. The experience of living independently in a foreign country, while maintaining his royal identity, prepared him for the cultural adaptability required in international service. The time at Stanford also allowed him to develop interests in aviation and international affairs that would shape his subsequent career choices. American academic culture encouraged individual initiative and professional ambition in ways that complemented his royal training while expanding his personal horizons. Following his return from Stanford, Prince William joined the Foreign and Commonwealth Office as a career diplomat. This path was typical for younger royals of his generation, providing professional credentials while maintaining service to the crown. Diplomatic work allowed him to represent British interests while gaining practical experience in international affairs. His entry into government service was facilitated by his educational background and international experience, but his progression depended on professional competence rather than royal status. The Foreign Office maintained strict standards for advancement, ensuring that royal appointees earned their positions through merit. The choice of diplomatic career reflected his personal interests while serving broader royal purposes. As a working member of the royal family, he could represent British interests abroad while fulfilling constitutional obligations at home. This dual role was considered ideal preparation for his eventual inheritance of the dukedom. Prince William's first major diplomatic assignment was to Lagos, Nigeria, where he served as Second Secretary in the British High Commission. This posting represented significant responsibility for a junior diplomat and provided direct experience of decolonization issues that were central to British foreign policy in the 1960s. Nigeria's political situation during his tenure was complex, involving the aftermath of independence and emerging regional tensions. His role required careful navigation of sensitive political relationships while promoting British commercial and diplomatic interests. The experience provided valuable insight into the practical challenges of post-colonial diplomacy. The Lagos posting also demonstrated his commitment to serious professional work rather than ceremonial royal duties. Living and working in challenging conditions, he established credibility within the Foreign Office while gaining expertise that would enhance his value as a future working royal. Following his service in Nigeria, Prince William was assigned to Tokyo, representing a significant advancement in his diplomatic career. Japan's strategic importance to Britain, particularly in economic and technological cooperation, made this posting both prestigious and professionally demanding. His work in Tokyo involved commercial diplomacy, cultural exchange, and political reporting during a period of rapid Japanese economic development. The position required sophisticated understanding of Asian business culture and Japanese political structures, skills he developed through intensive study and practical experience. The Tokyo assignment also provided opportunities for cultural engagement that complemented his official duties. His interest in Asian culture and society, developed during this posting, would later influence his approach to royal patronages and international relationships. By the early 1970s, Prince William's diplomatic career had established his professional credentials, while his father's advancing age made increased royal duties inevitable. His return to Britain marked the beginning of a transition from full-time diplomatic service to greater emphasis on royal responsibilities. The shift toward more visible royal duties occurred gradually, allowing him to maintain Foreign Office connections while taking on ceremonial obligations. This balance reflected the evolving nature of royal service, where professional competence increasingly complemented traditional constitutional roles. His father's declining health accelerated this transition as Prince William began to represent the Gloucester household at events where the Duke of Gloucester would previously have appeared. This increased visibility marked his emergence as a significant working member of the royal family. Throughout his diplomatic career, Prince William maintained a strong personal interest in aviation. He earned his pilot's license and participated in competitive flying, activities that provided both recreation and practical skills. His aviation expertise would later prove tragically significant. Flying represented freedom and technical challenge that complemented his professional duties. The precision and discipline required for aviation appealed to his methodical nature while providing escape from the formal constraints of royal life. He pursued advanced certifications and participated in air races as time permitted. His aviation interests also connected him with broader communities of pilots and aviation enthusiasts, providing social connections outside traditional royal circles. These relationships reflected his ability to maintain personal interests while fulfilling public obligations. By 1972, Prince William had become a prominent working member of the royal family, balancing continued diplomatic service with increased ceremonial duties. His international experience and professional credentials made him a valuable representative of modern British royalty, capable of engaging effectively with diverse audiences. His public appearances reflected careful preparation and genuine interest in the organizations and causes he supported. Unlike purely ceremonial royals, his professional background enabled substantive engagement with complex issues, enhancing the value of his patronages and official visits. The early 1970s marked the peak of his public prominence as heir to the Gloucester dukedom. His combination of royal birth, professional achievement, and personal charisma positioned him as a significant figure within the working royal family, with decades of service apparently ahead of him. On 28 August 1972, Prince William died in an aircraft accident during the Goodyear International Air Trophy at Halfpenny Green Airfield near Wolverhampton. He was participating in a competitive flying event when his Piper Cherokee Arrow crashed shortly after takeoff, killing him instantly at the age of 30. The official investigation determined that the crash resulted from mechanical failure rather than pilot error. His aircraft experienced engine problems immediately after takeoff, leaving insufficient time and altitude for emergency procedures. The accident was classified as unavoidable under the circumstances. His death shocked the royal family and the public, who had expected decades of service from the heir apparent to the Gloucester dukedom. The immediate consequence was the end of his direct line and the transfer of succession to his younger brother, who had been preparing for a largely private life. Prince William's death eliminated his branch of the Gloucester succession entirely, as he had never married or produced children. His life, which had been carefully prepared for constitutional service and dynastic continuation, ended without immediate heirs or direct legacy beyond his professional achievements. The practical consequence was the immediate transformation of his younger brother Prince Richard from a supporting family member to heir apparent of the dukedom. This change occurred at a time when Richard was establishing himself in a private architectural career, requiring fundamental reassessment of his life trajectory. The accident also marked the end of a generation's careful planning within the Gloucester household. Princess Alice, who had raised her eldest son for succession and service, now faced the reality that her younger son would inherit responsibilities he had never been trained to assume. Prince Richard Alexander Walter George was born on 26 August 1944, nearly 3 years after his elder brother. As the younger son, he faced different expectations from birth, less public pressure, more personal freedom, and the assumption that he would pursue a largely private career while maintaining royal connections. His position as second son traditionally meant inheritance of a courtesy title without the primary ducal responsibilities. This status allowed for greater flexibility in education and career choices, as he would not be expected to devote his life entirely to constitutional service. The expectation underlying his upbringing was that he would establish an independent professional identity while remaining available to support his brother's eventual ducal responsibilities. This balance between private achievement and royal duty would guide his education and early career decisions. Prince Richard's childhood paralleled his brother's in structure but differed in emphasis. Princess Alice maintained the same disciplined household for both sons, but Richard experienced less pressure to excel in areas specifically relevant to future royal duties. His education could emphasize personal interests while meeting general standards expected of royal children. He attended the same preparatory schools as his brother, but with different expectations about outcomes. Academic achievement was encouraged, but constitutional preparation was less intensive. This approach allowed him to develop interests and aptitudes without the constant awareness of future public responsibilities. The reduced pressure of his position as younger son enabled a more experimental approach to education and personal development. While maintaining royal standards of behavior and achievement, he could explore possibilities that would have been inappropriate for the heir to the dukedom. Prince Richard's decision to pursue architecture represented an unusual but permitted career choice for a royal of his generation. Architecture combined artistic creativity with technical precision, providing both personal satisfaction and professional credibility. The field also allowed for flexible practice that could accommodate royal obligations as they arose. His architectural training was comprehensive and professional rather than merely honorary. He completed full academic requirements and professional apprenticeships, establishing credentials that would enable genuine practice rather than symbolic participation. This commitment reflected his intention to maintain a serious private career. The choice of architecture also reflected broader changes in royal expectations during the 1960s and 1970s. Younger royals were increasingly encouraged to develop independent professional identities while remaining available for constitutional service when needed. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, Prince Richard established himself as a practicing architect, working on projects that had no connection to his royal status. His professional life proceeded largely outside public view, allowing him to develop expertise in client relationships based on competence rather than celebrity. His architectural practice focused on residential and institutional projects that utilized his technical training while providing creative satisfaction. The work was demanding and competitive, requiring the same professional standards expected of any architect seeking to build a successful career. This period represented the realization of expectations established during his childhood. A successful private career maintained parallel to, but largely separate from, royal obligations. His professional achievement validated the wisdom of allowing younger royal children to pursue independent paths while maintaining family connections. The relationship between Prince Richard and his elder brother William was characterized by clear division of roles and mutual respect for different paths. William prepared for succession while Richard developed professional independence, but both understood their obligations to the Gloucester household and the broader royal family. Their different trajectories, diplomatic service versus private practice, reflected complementary approaches to royal life in the modern era. William's public prominence balanced Richard's professional discretion, providing the Gloucester family with both constitutional representation and private achievement. The assumption underlying their relationship was that William would inherit primary family responsibilities while Richard would provide support as needed while maintaining his architectural career. This division appeared to offer both brothers optimal combinations of duty and personal fulfillment. William's death in August 1972 transformed Richard's position overnight from supporting family member to heir apparent of the dukedom. At 28, he faced the prospect of abandoning his established architectural career to assume responsibilities he had never been trained to fulfill. The immediate practical consequence was the need to reassess all his professional and personal commitments in light of his new position. Clients, projects, and business partnerships required evaluation for compatibility with increased royal obligations that would become inevitable upon his father's death. The psychological adjustment was equally significant. Having spent his adult life establishing independence from royal obligations, he now faced the prospect of abandoning that independence to fulfill duties his brother had been prepared to assume. This transformation required fundamental reconsideration of his life's trajectory. The transition away from architectural practice was gradual but inevitable following his brother's death. Prince Richard could not maintain the intensive professional commitments required for successful architectural practice while preparing for the extensive royal duties that would accompany the dukedom. The process of withdrawal from private practice required careful management of existing client relationships and professional obligations. His reputation within the architectural community had been established through competent work rather than royal connections, and his departure needed to maintain those professional relationships for future reference. The abandonment of his architectural career represented a significant personal sacrifice, as he had invested years in developing expertise and professional relationships that could not easily be resumed once royal duties became his primary obligation. This sacrifice was understood as necessary but not welcomed. On 8 July 1972, just weeks before his brother's death, Prince Richard married Birgitte Eva van Deurs, a Danish woman he had met while she was working in London. The timing of their marriage, immediately preceding the tragedy that would transform his life, added personal stability during a period of unprecedented change. Birgitte brought Danish practicality and professional competence to her new role as a member of the British royal family. Her background in language teaching and international experience provided valuable preparation for the constitutional duties that would become central to their lives following Richard's inheritance of the dukedom. The marriage represented a personal foundation that would prove essential as Prince Richard navigated the transition from private citizen to working royal. Her support enabled him to manage the competing demands of professional withdrawal and increased public obligations during the difficult years following his brother's death. Prince Henry, Duke of Gloucester, died on 10 June 1974, at which point Prince Richard inherited the dukedom and its associated responsibilities. At 29, he became the youngest duke in the royal family and one of the least prepared for the extensive constitutional obligations his position required. The succession was automatic and immediate, but the practical assumption of ducal responsibilities required careful planning and gradual implementation. The new Duke of Gloucester needed to establish relationships with organizations, charities, and institutions that had been supported by his father while developing his own approach to royal service. His inheritance included not only the title but also the expectation that he would become a full-time working member of the royal family, representing the crown at events, supporting charitable causes, and maintaining the Gloucester household's position within the broader constitutional structure. The Duke of Gloucester's initial years in his inherited role required careful balance between honoring his father's established commitments and developing his own approach to royal service. His architectural background provided useful perspective on planning and project management that enhanced his effectiveness in organizing charitable and ceremonial activities. His establishment as a working royal occurred during a period of evolving expectations for the monarchy, when public interest in royal activities was intense but critical. His professional competence and genuine commitment to his new responsibilities helped establish credibility despite his relatively sudden transition from private citizen to constitutional figure. The early patronages and associations he developed reflected both inherited obligations and personal interests, particularly in areas where his architectural expertise could contribute to organizational effectiveness. This approach demonstrated that professional background could enhance rather than compromise royal service. The Duke of Gloucester's architectural training proved highly relevant to his royal role, particularly in patronages related to historic preservation, urban planning, and architectural education. His technical expertise enabled substantive contribution to organizations working in these areas rather than merely ceremonial support. His involvement with the Royal Institute of British Architects, various heritage foundations, and architectural charities provided opportunities to combine professional knowledge with royal influence in ways that benefited both the organizations and the causes they supported. This integration of expertise and obligation became a model for effective modern royal service. The focus on architecture and heritage also provided continuity with his previous professional identity, allowing him to maintain connections with former colleagues while fulfilling constitutional obligations. This approach demonstrated that royal service could incorporate rather than replace professional competence. The Duke and Duchess of Gloucester had 3 children: Alexander, Earl of Ulster, born in 1974, Lady Davina Windsor, born in 1977, and Lady Rose Gilman, born in 1980. These children represented the continuation of the Gloucester line and the next generation of potential working royals within the extended royal family. Alexander, as the eldest son and heir to the dukedom, received education appropriate to his future position, while his sisters were raised with the expectation that they would pursue private careers while maintaining family connections. This approach reflected evolving royal practice regarding the education and expectations of minor royal children. The children grew up during a period when royal families were adapting to increased media attention and changing public expectations about royal behavior and relevance. Their upbringing reflected these pressures while maintaining traditional standards of royal education and public conduct. Princess Alice lived to see her grandchildren grow up, providing continuity between the pre-war royal world of her youth and the modern constitutional monarchy her family served. Her influence on the next generation reflected the same disciplined approach that had shaped her son's upbringing. Her role as grandmother allowed her to maintain family traditions while adapting to changing circumstances within the royal family. The loss of her eldest son had demonstrated the unpredictability of royal life, but her younger son's successful transition to ducal responsibilities provided evidence of the family's adaptability and commitment to service. Her longevity, she lived until 2004, meant that she witnessed her son's establishment as an effective working royal and the early development of her grandchildren's education and character. This continuity provided stability within the Gloucester household during periods of broader change within the monarchy. The Duke of Gloucester's reign extended across several decades, during which he established a reputation for reliable, competent service to the crown. His architectural expertise enhanced his effectiveness in heritage and planning-related patronages, while his professional approach to royal duties provided a model for combining expertise with constitutional obligation. His stable marriage and successful raising of children demonstrated the family's recovery from the tragedy that had redirected its trajectory. The Gloucester household became an example of effective adaptation to unexpected circumstances while maintaining high standards of royal service. The longevity of his service, extending well into the 21st century, provided continuity within the working royal family during periods of significant change and challenge for the monarchy as an institution. His reliability and competence became valued assets to the crown during difficult periods. Princess Alice's approach to motherhood reflected her Scottish background and her understanding of royal obligations. She maintained discipline while allowing for individual development, preparing her sons for service while encouraging personal achievement. Her influence was evident in both sons' commitment to duty and professional competence. Her response to personal tragedy, the loss of her eldest son, demonstrated the stoicism and resilience that characterized her generation of royals. Rather than withdrawing from public life, she supported her younger son's transition to inherited responsibilities while maintaining her own obligations to the crown. Her emphasis on duty over privilege shaped her son's understanding of their position within the royal family and British society. Both William and Richard understood that their royal birth created obligations rather than merely conferring benefits, a perspective that guided their career choices and personal conduct. The Gloucester family's trajectory illustrated how external circumstances could redirect carefully planned royal lives. Prince William's preparation for succession was ended by accidental death, while Prince Richard's intended private career was abandoned for inherited constitutional obligations. The contrast between intended and actual outcomes demonstrated both the unpredictability of royal life and the adaptability required of royal families. Personal preferences and professional ambitions remained secondary to constitutional necessity, requiring individuals to abandon established paths when duty demanded. The family's response to these circumstances, successful adaptation rather than resistant resentment, reflected the disciplined approach to royal service that Princess Alice had instilled in her sons. Both understood that royal birth created obligations that might require personal sacrifice when circumstances demanded. The current Duke of Gloucester continues to serve as a working member of the royal family well into the 21st century, representing one of the longest periods of service in modern royal history. His son Alexander, Earl of Ulster, represents the next generation of the Gloucester line, educated and prepared for potential service while pursuing independent professional development. The family's position within the modern royal family reflects the evolution of constitutional monarchy toward a smaller, more focused group of working royals. The Gloucester household's reliability and competence have maintained their relevance despite their distance from direct succession. Their legacy demonstrates the value of professional competence and personal discipline in royal service, providing an example of how traditional royal obligations can be fulfilled effectively in the modern constitutional system while adapting to changing public expectations and social circumstances. Princess Alice, Duchess of Gloucester, raised two sons who represented different possibilities for royal service in the modern era. Prince William prepared for traditional succession and constitutional leadership, while Prince Richard developed professional independence alongside royal connection. Circumstance, rather than planning, ultimately determined their paths. William's death ended one approach to royal life, the careful preparation of an heir for inherited responsibility, While Richard's successful adaptation to unexpected succession demonstrated an alternative model of royal service based on professional competence applied to constitutional obligations. The Gloucester family's experience illustrated both the unpredictability of royal life and the adaptability required to fulfill constitutional obligations, regardless of personal preference or preparation. Their story demonstrated that royal service, properly understood, required individual sacrifice for institutional continuity, a lesson Princess Alice ensured her sons understood and accepted as the price of their privileged birth.